There is one thing that I have noticed about every successful reseller that I know, whether they're killing it here on YouTube or secretly making a bunch of money behind the scenes, they all have one trait in common. And no, it's not a secret app, it's not some secret bolo list, and it's not their thrift store route. It's their mindset. Now, before you roll your eyes and say that's a bunch of fluff, hear me out. Because this small shift in my thinking has made me more money, has gotten me more sales, and has allowed me to find better inventory every time I go sourcing. And it's made the whole reselling process way more enjoyable. Let's be real, we've all had those days. You walk into the thrift store already feeling defeated. You say things like, there's nothing good here. There's too many other resellers in this store. This is a complete waste of my time. I used to think like this all of the time. But once I noticed how often these thoughts were popping into my head and how big of a role it had on the outcome of my day, I decided to flip the switch. Now, before I walk into any thrift store, I say to myself, this is the one. I literally will sit in the car, put a fake smile on my face and say, this is the one. This is the one with the good stuff that I've been looking for. And if there's a bunch of resellers already in the store, I say, cool. They don't know as much as I know. It sounds cheesy, but it actually works. Why? Because when you walk in with a negative mindset, your brain literally stops looking for opportunities. You miss stuff, you rush through the store, and you quit and call it a day early. But when you go into the store expecting to find something, you will find yourself digging deeper, looking harder, and most of the time, you will actually be successful and find more items. Let's talk about that feeling. I've had these days where I'm out on my long sourcing days and I've already hit 10 thrift stores and maybe I haven't even covered my gas for the day. I'm pulling up to the 11th thrift store for the day and I think to myself, this is the one that never has anything good. That thought alone has cost me so much money. I've had days where I've almost skipped going into a thrift store just because this is the one that never has anything good. I'm tired, I've already hit 10, I've already found a bunch of good stuff, or I haven't found anything, so there's not going to be anything at this thrift store. And I think about calling it a day and heading home early. But if I push through and go in, there's been countless times where I walk into that last thrift store or that one more thrift store and that $200 item that I've been looking for all day is sitting there on the shelf just waiting for me. That's when it clicked for me. Your mindset controls your effort and your effort controls your results. So if you can't control your mind and you can't convince yourself to keep going, you're not going to put in the effort. And the only way to get the results that you want is to put in the effort. So now I treat every thrift store like an opportunity. Like this is the one that I've been waiting all day for. I say it when I'm walking in the store, this is the one. I put that smile on my face and I say, this is the one with the good stuff. That tiny shift in my mindset has helped me continue going to store after store after store. It's especially useful on those really long sourcing days or the days when you just don't feel like being out there doing it. Let's talk about comparison. Now, we've all done this. You're sitting at home and you're watching a TikTok video, you're watching an Instagram reel, or you're watching something on YouTube. And some guy comes on and he shows the most epic haul video of them all. He shows that he found a bunch of sealed vintage video games, a bunch of vintage clothing, or even some electronics that sell for hundreds of dollars. And you're sitting there on your couch at home and you're saying, why does this never happen to me? Why can't I ever find the good stuff? This stuff is never in my neighborhood. I've been there. I've thought the same thing. I've watched those guys here on YouTube and said, there's no way they're finding that stuff. That must be nice. They live over there. That's why they're able to find it, or whatever excuse I can come up with to make myself feel better in the moment. But the truth is, we're just not seeing the whole picture. I'm not seeing the 8 stores that they went to before they found this haul. I'm not seeing the hours that they drove outside of their local area to go find these items. I'm not seeing the days and the weeks they spent building the relationships in order to be able to purchase these items. I'm also not seeing the years of experience that these people have put in to learning not only the items to pick up, but where to find these items. I'm simply just seeing the highlight reel. What helped me with this was flipping this comparison into inspiration. Instead of comparing myself to these guys and trying to come up with an excuse for why they're successful and why I'm not, I flipped it and I said, this is inspiration. That guy on YouTube or that girl over there on Instagram is no smarter than me and no smarter than you. If they can do it, then so can I and so can't you. We just have to be willing to put in the same amount of work, the same amount of effort, and the same amount of energy in order to be able to find the same items. They're not special. They have no advantages over us. The only advantage that they have is that they don't give up, that they've continued to do this until they have found these items. Now, sure, we all get lucky once in a while and you walk in, but guess what? You don't get lucky time and time again. If that guy posts one reel and says, look at all the stuff I found, and you never hear from him again, or there's that guy at the thrift store that brags about that one item he found one time, that guy got lucky. Now, if it's someone that's doing it consistently, it's not luck. This is something that they've learned and they've put in the effort and the energy to actually become good at. Don't fall for it. It's a trap to think that they have some kind of advantage or some kind of access to something that me and you don't have. Sure, they might have advantages now. They might have built some relationships. They might have found a honey hole. They might have knowledge in a certain category that makes them better than the rest of us. However, they weren't born with those advantages. Those advantages came after hours and after weeks and after months and years of building those relationships, studying the items, and learning everything there is to learn about reselling. Let me tell you something else. Successful resellers trust their instincts. If I'm standing in front of a rack of clothing and I'm looking at a brand and I say to myself, I've seen that before, I think it's pretty good. I don't talk myself out of it. I grab it and I'm going to look it up. I trust that I know what I'm doing. Even when I don't know what I'm doing, I trust the fact that I have instincts and that I'm going to spend the time to learn. What's the worst case? The worst case is that I learn something isn't worth anything and I'm able to skip over it next time. The best outcome is that I found a secret bolo item that if I just trust my instincts and look it up, I now have the ability to actually purchase this item. That belief and that confidence only builds over time, and it only builds if you stay positive. Negative thinking says, that item looks pretty cool, but I'm sure it's not worth anything, and you walk away from the item because you just convinced yourself it's not worth anything, but your attention was drawn to it. Positive thinking says, I think that item might be worth something. I remember seeing it somewhere. I'm going to take the time and look it up. That mindset makes you a better decision maker and it makes you quicker. Rather than standing there going back and forth of whether I should look this up, I think it's good, I don't know if it's good. If I'm even questioning whether this is something that I remember or something that I thought was good, or it has some features that I know are good on other items, whatever it is that drew me into that item, I'm picking that item up and I'm going to research it, because the consequences of walking away are so high, while the consequences of spending a few minutes to look it up and learn something are so low. I can't think of the number of times I picked something up just because it stood out to me. Whether it's some weird electronic item or some vintage shirt or whatever it is, I see it and I say, hey, that looks weird, or I wonder what that is. Curiosity is what makes a great reseller. If you're questioning what everything is and what that does or what this item is, and you want to learn and you're willing to actually spend the time to look it up, you will find more items than your average reseller who only has a list of items to go in and find. If you guys are enjoying this video, you're not going to want to miss next week's video, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Here's another thing I like to do. I assume I am the best reseller in the room. Even when I'm surrounded by competition, I remind myself that I've put in the hours, I've put in the work, I've studied the sold comps, I know this category, I know this niche, I know what to buy, what to pass over, I know what my profit margins are, I know what sells well on eBay. I know more than the average reseller. Therefore, I am the best reseller within the room. I want to remind myself that it doesn't matter what my competition is doing. It doesn't matter that my competition is in the store. It doesn't matter that my competition picked up that item. That item might be something that they pick up that I don't pick up. I don't care what my competition is doing. I am only focused on finding stuff for myself. You'll find that a lot of resellers are niched down into certain things. So they'll only pick up certain items and you will only pick up other items. So while you might pass over something, someone else might actually pick it up. And while they might pass over something, you might actually go and pick it up. That's okay. There's no need to look and say, oh man, that guy got all the good stuff, there's nothing else left. He probably passed over some things that he knows could sell, but they just don't fit within his business model. So he skipped over those, which allows you the opportunity to go scoop up those items. Don't be scared of other resellers. Be friendly, talk to them, find out what they're doing, find out what they're selling, ask lots of questions. They are the best people to learn from. And just because they're there doesn't mean that you won't be able to find anything to resell. Another thing I like to remind myself is I can sell anything. This mindset change has helped me on days when I'm not finding the items I'm looking for. So yes, of course I would love to go into every thrift store and find a whole stack of vintage sealed video games for $5 each. That's the dream. However, most of the time I go in with the idea that, yeah, I'm looking for video games, I'm looking for high-end electronics, I'm looking for running shoes and hiking boots, and I'm looking for golf apparel. However, so isn't every other reseller inside the store. So I have to be open in my mindset. I have to be open and willing to look at everything. This means that I go down every aisle. This means that I take the time to look up things I don't know. So while the competition is busy just looking for the bolo items, I have that open mindset, which allows me to look at every single thing in the store as an opportunity. Sure, I don't really sell women's clothing. However, if I'm having a slow day and I can't find anything else, I'm gonna go through the women's clothing. I'm gonna look through the women's jackets. I'm gonna look through the women's pants, and I'm gonna learn a few things. I'm gonna say, hey, I don't know this brand. Let me take 5 minutes, look it up, learn it. Let me take a picture of the tag and I'll go home and study it later. Whatever it is, I wanna be open to every opportunity. The mindset of I'm going into the thrift store and I'm only looking for this one item, that's where a lot of resellers go wrong, because they are so focused on finding just the one or two things that they saw on the YouTube haul video. Well, the truth is so isn't every other reseller. So if you want to stand out, you have to have that open mindset to be willing to look at every item in the thrift store as an opportunity. Now, what about the bad days? Maybe a buyer opened a return request, maybe a buyer left some negative feedback, or even the last 2 thrift stores you went to didn't have anything. Do you keep going? Well, the old me, it kind of depended. It depended on how long I was out, how I was feeling. It depended on which store was next. It depended on how my day was going. And it just depended on a lot of factors. But now I tell myself it's okay that that sucked. It's okay that that last store didn't have anything. It's okay that buyer left me negative feedback. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect what's going to happen at the next store. Each store is a new opportunity. So I want to go into each store with the best mindset possible. I don't want to go in thinking that there's going to be nothing there just because there was nothing at the last one. The last one has nothing to do with this one. So why do we group it like that? It simply just comes down to refusing to quit and to keep going until you have exhausted all of your opportunities, until you have hit every store in your area, until you've hit every yard sale, until you've touched and looked up every item, until you know everything. You keep going. You don't let the outside factors in. You don't say, oh, well, I'm having a bad day, so it's okay if I go home early, or there's nothing out at the last 3 thrift stores, so there's gonna be nothing at the last one. I'd rather just go home. Whatever the excuse is, there's always going to be more excuses. Remember, we don't see the work behind that Instagram haul video. We don't see the hours that they spent at the thrift store digging through, looking for these items, or the knowledge that they gained in order to even know which items to pick up. All we saw was the highlight reel. You have to remember that they put in the work just as much as we have to put in the work if we want the same outcome. There's always going to be excuses, but the winners in this game ignore all the excuses and just keep pushing forward. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. You cannot build a successful reselling business if you don't think it's going to work out. In order to be successful at reselling or any business in general, you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to be willing to push past what normal people would think is appropriate. That means you have to be willing to put in the hours and go a little bit further than the average person. The average person's only going to one thrift store in their area and then saying the thrift stores have nothing. The people that are finding all the good items, they're spending 8, 10, 12-hour days outsourcing finding these items. They're spending their nights learning what items to pick up, learning where to go to find the items. They're studying the competition. They're studying the brands that they need to know. They're studying everything that they can to get a competitive advantage over the average reseller. When you believe you can find the items, when you believe you can sell the items, and when you are willing to outwork your competition, you'll start to prove yourself right. It's all about the mindset. So the next time you're driving into the thrift store feeling defeated and not wanting to go inside, put on that fake smile, and tell yourself this is going to be the one. This is the store with all the good stuff. If you've enjoyed this video, I think you're going to love this one. So go ahead and give it a click.